with a wonderful friend, colleague, beautiful soul, as I described her. I have these beautiful souls that come on my show. I am blessed beyond. Desiree Marie Leedo. Desiree she's a divorce recovery specialist and life empowerment specialist to women, as well as the founder of a beautiful website, My Luminous Heart. She's written a book about recovery. It's called Invisible Goddess: Step Out of the Shadow of Your Divorce and Shine. So before I introduce Desiree and turn it over to her, she's going to talk a little bit about her background and how this business evolved for her. I met her actually 3 years ago. It was 3 years in June. We were in Los Angeles attending a mastermind that was given by an online group that we were both in. Now, Desiree's in Massachusetts and I'm in New York. And here we were collectively brought to Los Angeles, and it wasn't a big group. I'd say maybe there were 20 of us, if that, in this group. And in one of the exercises of the mastermind, we were told to close our eyes, kind of go into a visualization meditation, and bring up things that were inspiring us. And I think the whole thing was an Instagram exercise, if I remember correctly. I don't know. We ended up in a meditation, and the thing that struck me and Desiree and Marina, who was there at the time, was the fact that Desiree and I visualized the exact same thing. We visualized this garden with lavender, and it was this really incredible experience. And so that's what happened. So we were kind of tied from that moment on. So that's how we were brought together. So because of all the fabulous things she's done, I had to have her on the show. So Desiree, I'm going to turn it over to you, and please share your story with us. Uh-oh. So, from time to time, we have technical difficulties, and this is one of them. So I think what happened is we have lost our signal for a minute, and so Desiree will be here in a second. But until she gets here, I'm going to use this time to tell you that we have a couple of features that we've added since last week's episode to make it easier for you, the viewer, to find out information. So after this episode, if you go to Facebook, and the page is called LDtvTalk Scoop, you will see links to things that we've referred to in this episode. So whether it be how to find Desiree's book, or whether it be how to find one of the products I'm going to be talking about, or one of the other references that we've had as a result of the show, you'll be able to find it on Scoop. So we hope you will do that. It's a public page. It's not a private page. So please check it out. If you go there, right after the show, you'll be able to catch the links to the things that Paula Jennings, who was our guest last week, what she referenced. So we hope you'll visit the Scoop. And also what you'll be able to find on the Scoop is information on our Facebook page and all kinds of different tidbits, as well as, an open forum for you to tell us what you want to see on future episodes. So what I'm going to do now is check my phone, because Desiree is probably, here she is now. Here you are. So I actually used the time to tell people about the Facebook page that we created, LDtvTalk Scoop. So we did it. So now I turn that over to you. Look, technical difficulties happen all the time, especially when you go live. So it's not a problem. We use the time wisely.
Thank you.
You're going to fill them in on your story. So I'm turning it over now. And hopefully we're not going to lose you again.
Hopefully not, Lynn. I hope not. Well, first of all, Lynn, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on today. And I did hear the first part of that story when we first met at that mastermind. That brought back really great memories. And I just want to really acknowledge you for stepping out and creating this platform to, especially in this current climate, create some sunshine and a beacon of light for people, bringing awareness to people. So thank you for that. And it's just been such a joy knowing you, really. You are a firecracker. You're so inspiring.
Thank you.
So yes, okay, so my story, yes. So I'm the author of Invisible Goddess, as you said. I'm the founder of My Luminous Heart. And this is about creating a global community of women who are really choosing to transform their heartache, their betrayal, and their rejection into a new experience of reaching out for even more love and freedom and joy and emotional liberation. You know, I went through a difficult experience of my own through my own divorce. I was married for 10 years when my husband very suddenly and very unexpectedly decided to walk out on the marriage without me even really knowing there was any problem, which was a tough time because at that time we had just moved countries to progress his career. So brand new house, I move in on my own. I have to unpack just to put it on the market and pack it all up again. And it was a very, very difficult time. You know, not only did I find myself heartbroken, completely devastated, but I also found myself in just financially a very difficult situation. I had left my healing practice where we had moved from and all my clients to come and move and progress his career. And so, yeah, I found myself with most of the areas of my wheel of life just on the floor. You know, it was a very difficult time.
Did you have a particular, you're an inspiration and you've written a book, and people who are hearing about this can go to Scoop, can get the link to your book. But what was it like for you? Did you have that lifeline? Was there somebody in particular that you reached out to, and here you are in a new country? It's like, oh my God, I'm devastated. I'm down here on the floor. Is there anybody who pulled you up?
Oh, Lynn, I mean, honestly, my mother, she's my best friend anyway, but she was on the other side of the world, obviously. And she was my first biggest lifeline. I probably spent hours on the phone talking to her. And I also had a fantastic group of people that I knew from where I'd moved from. And they were just, thankfully, they were wise people. They were wise souls. They knew when to speak and when to listen. They knew how to support me properly. And I reached out to one of them, every single day. We would spend literally hours on the phone. Then I thought, oh, let me try therapy, going to see a therapist. And that was absolutely pointless because they really just want to listen and listen and listen. They're not really intervening in any way that's helpful. So I gave that up quite quickly. And then I went to the local Starbucks one day and I saw a headline on a magazine that was lying on the counter that said, is self-help really effective in a time of crisis? Can self-help books and models really help you when you're in a time of crisis? And it was like suddenly I remembered who I am and what my work is and, all my healing work. So I raced off and went to the local bookstore and bought a ton of books about healing from heartbreak and self-esteem. And I forced myself to get up every single morning and go to that Starbucks and read those books. And I mean, actually, from there, I met so many people just being in that Starbucks every day. I don't know. It was as if life just sort of opened itself up to me, and people just came out of the woodwork. And that's eventually, after a lot of reading and a lot of trying to find my way forward, I actually realized that there was nobody that was going to be able to get me from where I was to where I needed to go. So I had to become the solution that I was seeking. So
that is, was there a particular meditation that you fell back on, or a practice that, besides going to the Starbucks and besides reading every day, that you would say pulled you out of it? Or was it the fact that, was it your sheer will and your history of healing that really you found yourself in the position of being patient rather than teacher?
Well, it actually, the story goes on, because at that point my life took like a massive U-turn, because the house sold after a couple of months. And then, do you remember that time when The Secret, it was around that time when The Secret, that movie, The Secret,
Yeah, of course.
came out, right?
Yeah, right.
So I was watching that, and although I loved all the speakers and everybody in it, there was one particular man that stood out to me, Dr. John DeMartini, and what stood out was what he said about, mastering our destiny, being true to our own souls. He only had a very short piece in it, but that thing he said, I don't remember it word for word now, that sort of, it really hit me. And at that point, I was so exhausted after months of all this heartache and, trying to figure my way out. I packed up my bags and went over back to my family, my mom and dad, who were in South Africa, actually. And I decided to go there and just figure out my life, figure out what I'm going to do next. And I mean, would you believe they live in a small coastal city that my mom and I went to the bookstore one day, and who should be there speaking? Dr. John DeMartini. And it's a place he had never come to before. It's a place he never went back to afterwards again. But because of my my work in the healing world, because I'd also been doing some work in the media, mind, body, spirit field with Dr. Eric Pearl and writing articles, and John DeMartini knew who Dr. Pearl was. So we had a long discussion, and he actually invited me to become a facilitator of his work and train with him intensely at his institute in South Africa. And so, life just comes in, and sometimes maybe it's that I say in my book, when the teacher is ready, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I think at that point I just knew this was the right path to take. So I went back to the UK, I packed everything up, put it all in storage, went back to my parents, and I lived with them. Basically, they supported me while I trained intensely with him. And so what kept happening then, because I went on to facilitate with him globally at his events, working with hundreds of people in a room, which was so exciting, and helping people break through their stress and their trauma and all these things. And as I was learning his modalities, now, isn't it interesting? In the hundreds and hundreds of hours I worked outside of his programs, with my own clients, I kept getting the same kind of person coming to me. And that was the person who'd been rejected or betrayed, heartbroken, left behind, felt like they don't know the rules of life. They don't understand how this works. They've been a good girl or, good person. Why is this happening to them? And it's really interesting, because at one moment, after enough of these people had come to me, I just stopped and went, oh my gosh, there's a process going on here. Because I hadn't just used his work. I was combining his work with my own, history and healing and all the modalities that I used to practice. And I had basically created a little process that I was taking myself through and kind of fast tracking myself back to creating a new life, so to speak, and healing the way I felt inside and understanding, the areas of life and how we function. It was just a massive learning. And when that moment arrived and I realized, there's a process, there's something is going on here, I backtracked and I put it all into place. And that was basically the birth of my work. And it was eventually John took me back to England, through his programs, through facilitating, had his workshops. And I went back there and pretty much started all over again.
That is phenomenal. And then, of course, you ended up here and you're freezing again. Well, we heard that part of the story. If Desiree has to leave and come back, we're going to hear part 2, but hopefully we're going to get her to unfreeze really, really quickly, which is great. But I think basically what Desiree has just said, let this kind of sink in for people who are closed to the possibilities of having miracles appear in our lives every day. She watches a movie called The Secret. She sees somebody in there who has a teeny, teeny bit to say. Fast forward, she goes back to South Africa to live with her family. She goes to a bookstore and he's speaking. So we have to just look at this as the fact that for the skeptics out there, you're going to say it's a coincidence, you know. But for those of us who believe there really aren't coincidences and our life has a path and an order, he was put there, whether she called him in or the forces of her circumstances allowed them to meet. But she was on a trajectory to change her life, and he facilitated her new life in a huge way. She not only met him that day, she downloaded all his books. She became a follower of his teachings and a student of his teachings, and then went on to become a teacher of his methods. So totally flipped the switch, totally changed her life, and revolutionized her career. So here she is, a broken woman. She receives this pronouncement from her husband that he's leaving her. Just after she moves countries to help him get his career back in line. So it's a heavy burden to bear, but what's happened since is an evolutionary process that not only helped her heal, but take that experience, use the teachings that she had found, and then master that and create a program so that women who are going through something similar can have a lifeline that maybe they don't have right now. So it's pretty fantastic. Desiree is coming back. Well,
Lynn, I am back, and I am so sorry. I do not understand what is happening today.
It's like these perfect segues. You go away, and I talk about the fact that there are no coincidences, that this is a story for those skeptics out there who will remain skeptical. But for those who are open, what you went through, finding this person who was an obscure character in an hour-long movie,
That's right.
finding him lecturing at a bookstore. I mean, come on. And then being able to teach his teachings.
Absolutely. And he was laid over. He had to go there because his flight was redirected or so. He's never been there. He's never been back there. So it is, I talk about this all the time in my work. It's about these portals that open up.
Yeah.
And to be able to actually be clear and follow the signs, and that when they open up, you step into them, you step through them.
Yeah, I am doing something, and I'm going to talk about it in just one of the things I do, like things that I found that I love at the end of the show. Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Right.
Are you familiar with his work?
Yes, I know a little about him, yes.
So he is incredible, and he talks about the opportunity to really create change in your life through the process of quantum energy. Mm-hmm. and managing your thoughts and being on that frequency. When your thought is on that frequency and it matches, then an event happens. Yes. So you were on a frequency that matched, and look where it took you. So
absolutely. And as much as I felt desperation and fear, I wouldn't say I was in the highest vibration, but I think my desire, my deep inner desire for something to just I don't know. It's almost like I was waiting for something. That
Well,
deep
you were. I
expectation.
mean, that event was waiting to happen.
Yeah.
I totally believe that. And look at the fact that it's not just been about you. It's been now about healing you, but you healing others. And that is so incredible. It really is. So I know you're working on a couple of online courses. Tell us about that.
So yes, the one I'm working on now is my main one. My main passion is the Luminous Divorce Program. And that is literally going to be a step by step. You can do it self-study, or you can do it in a group with me, or you can do it one-on-one with me. But nonetheless, it's about you having all the materials, the videos, the worksheets, everything you need. And it's a step-by-step process that's going to walk you through 5 areas. First, what I call leaving the wilderness, which is where you just get your ducks in a row and start to get ready for it. Then the next is called enter the sanctuary, the next step, which is where you actually do all the essential self-care required. Because when you're in a heartbreak situation, you have such brain fog, you can't even think clearly. So we need to get in the sanctuary and get those self-care steps going that will help you to be able to think clearly and deal with the heartbreak. Then we go into alchemy, which is the heartbreak, dealing with all the anger and the frustration and the real meaning behind what's happening for you. And then, we go on from there. Then we go into release. That's the closure and the forgiveness part of the program. And then the part I call ignite, which is all about igniting that inner love, that inner relationship with yourself, because you want to live from the inside out. I believe that divorce, rejection, betrayal, heartbreak, all these things are, even being rejected from a job or, a college, these are all kind of spiritual redirects, if you like.
Yeah.
Because you're not you're meant to be on another path. Exactly. So that ignite is all about reigniting with yourself and your path and how to take care of yourself. And then we go on to emerge, which is where we work with the wheel of life, all the different areas of the wheel of life, and we map out a life that just feels meaningful for you. And then with an action plan for how you're going to go get that. So it's really a start to finish healing system. And I'll probably be launching that in 2020. I'm very, very excited. Oh, that's my main big one.
I know it's a passion of yours. Yeah. And that sounds just fantastic. So I know it's going to be focused for women who are going through that personal rejection through relationships, but it's certainly something that anybody could take and apply their energy toward if they need to take steps just to get on a better track.
Yes, absolutely. Because, there is some fun with rejection. In a way, there are different layers of rejection. It's very different being rejected from a 20-year marriage than from a 2-month relationship, or, from a 20-year marriage versus a college or whatever. But underneath, it really is all the same kind of principle. In order to move on from it, something has to die. And as sad and as weird as that sounds, we have to grieve some kind of death, whether it's like the death of a fairy tale fantasy that you thought you were going to live, or the death of some future that you hope to arrive at, and now you're going to have to arrive there in a different way, or the death of an admiration you've got for someone or had for someone for a long time, and now they've toppled off the pedestal. So you've got to be able to grieve, regardless of the rejection experience, what that death is. And then you've got to be able to turn your sort of anger and frustration into positive action that can take you kind of in the direction of where you want to go, and just really also take the gifts and the lessons and be able to get the closure and the forgiveness. There are quite a lot of steps, but nonetheless, it's all the same sort of thing,
Yeah. In writing it, is it something that is difficult for you, having gone through the process, to have to relive it again and again and again? Or is it something that you feel is sacred because you were able to go through it and get beyond it?
Yes, I feel more that it's sacred, really. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the very last steps in my process are all about the forgiveness part, is being able to say, thank you for giving me this experience. And, I wouldn't be able to even help other people or write this program if I didn't have full forgiveness and completeness with what happened to me, and a bigger picture of how that was meant to happen in my life. to take me towards where I meant to go. You know, the moment I realized that there was something bigger than all this pain and misery I was experiencing, that was the day I really took off. And that's what I'm trying to, when I'm working with someone, I'm always looking to find that for them as well. What is the greater cause, or the cause that is greater than the misery that they're going through, and getting them to go in that direction.
Well, I know I sign up, I'm a subscriber to your email list. And a couple months ago, there was one post that particularly got to me. I think you'll know which one it is, that you were talking about the fact somebody brought you to a conference, and after the break, they were doing some really important work. I think it was your facilitator.
Yes, that's right.
And you didn't want to go through the doors to go to the next step. Can you kind of talk about that experience? Because I found that extraordinarily compelling.
Yes. Okay, so here I was. It was Dr. John DeMartini. Here we were in the trainings and the seminars, and it's all great until you start addressing your own stuff. And that's where we were. Basically, I had a really not very nice phone call. We'd been there all morning, and I received the phone call, and I just became emotionally very upset. And the afternoon was gearing up to do some really deep, intensive work of really diving into, for me, it would have been this heartbreak experience. And, you know, I just thought, I can't deal with this. I can't cope. So I packed up my bag, and I went to Louise, who I'd been there with on the program. And I said, you know, just doing you a courtesy, I'm leaving. I can't be here anymore. And at that exact corner, she hadn't even answered. And at that exact moment, he came walking around the corner, and he was saying, you know, oh, you're coming back in the room. And I was like, no, I'm leaving. I really can't be here. And as much as I was trying to make excuses for not being there, as much as he couldn't understand, get back in the room. And eventually, you know, after I fumbled around a little bit, he sort of looked at me and he said, look, you can either go home and lie in the fetal position for a week, or you can get back in that room and find out what the part of you was, or what the part of you is that wanted this experience. And that piqued my curiosity when he said the part of me that wanted the experience. Because I was like, I don't want this. I want this experience. How could I want this experience? It's been the worst experience of my life. But there was something in that. There was a seed. There was a curiosity, and a sort of pull in my chest that knew you need to walk back in that room. So I went back in with him, and that was
your life changed.
That was the start of the journey. Yes.
I love that story. I think that because I think it's a metaphor for things that all of us go through.
Yeah.
There's a point in our lives, whether it be early on, whether it be midlife, whether it be later in life, that we can either lay in that fetal position, or we can get up and go through those conference room doors and see what's on the other side and do the work that changes our life. And I think that that is extraordinary. I love that. And, you know, I just want to say, I think that that's extremely profound. And most people would say, I've been there, or I'm going through that right now. I need to go through those doors.
Yeah. Have the courage. Absolutely, because life is a series of death and rebirth, and that, I mean, Lynn, we've lived long enough to know. I think the older you get, the more you realize, you know, it is a series of death and rebirth processes. And I think the more you can learn the tools and the skills that enable you to cope with that, enable you to ask a different question that can lead to a different future, the more empowered you are to actually enjoy your life. You know, have joy. It's not, we're not just here to be afraid and to learn and grow and fight through obstacles. We're also here to have joy.
Yeah, we're here to be happy, totally, and get the keys to get to that happiness. Now, nobody's saying it's a piece of cake.
Oh, absolutely.
It's pretty damn hard, but the joy is there, and it is. You know, as Paula said last week, you're the author of your own movie.
Yeah.
And you're the star of your own movie, the author of your own script, the star of your own movie. And, move forward and let that energy take you to the different places. And I think that because we're going to talk to a lot of women who are entrepreneurs, it is something that an entrepreneur faces probably more than somebody who is in the corporate life, because they are authoring their careers. And as you know, there are step ups and step backs, forward and back, and changes and everything else. And, it's a fabulous process, but it is also one that has us learning a lot of lessons and going through a lot of steps. And really kind of benefiting from that experience. So that's one of the things that I hope to do in bringing people like you on, is to make people aware that, we're going through on this journey, and it's pretty fantastic. And there's a lot of people out there that can help you get through it.
And that a journey shared as well is so important, because that's, when I was in that time of crisis when he left and I was alone, to be able to reach out as well. I really came to understand that heartbreak and depression thrive and grow in a petri dish of shame and isolation. And it's really, really important, especially as women, we're connectors. We connect from the heart. It's really, really important as women that we have a strong support system and that we are able to share our journeys, and be there. Not just be on our own and think that so many people think when they're in a difficult situation, they withdraw and they just think, oh, I'll just deal with this on my own because nobody wants to be around me. And that's just about the worst thing that you can do.
I agree. And people are, women are their own worst enemies a lot of times. They feel they have this burden to bear on their own because they're traditionally the nurturers. Okay. And they feel that nobody else, they need to go through it because they're the nurturers. That's simply not true. There are people who are willing to help you, who are willing to pull you back up, to, have empathy, to point you in the right direction. If there's another person who has also shared that experience that you need to be in contact with. Yeah. I'm not saying you make everything public on Facebook or YouTube.
Oh, absolutely. You do have to have your boundaries and protect your...
You must protect yourself. But I think that, knowing the incredible women that I've met along my entrepreneurial journey, in addition to the ones I've met in the corporate world who are wonderful mentors and role models, that they're out there. They're really there to help us. So
absolutely, there's a lot of help. This is the one wonderful thing about the internet as well. There is so much help available. I have a YouTube channel as well, and I'm constantly putting out free videos and material. And there are a lot of people that really care and provide a lot of really good content that's even available free.
Yeah, I know. So I think you've already answered this, but we're going to go to our lightning round. And I want to know a person that has inspired you or continues to inspire you, and why.
Then there are so many. There are so many.
Thank you.
There really are. They really are. You know who inspires me a lot, especially at the moment, is Marianne Williamson, because she has this great body of work and these great teachings, and now she's, running for the Democratic election. So I just for the Democratic nomination, and I don't know. I think that's very, very inspiring. I have a lot of people that inspire me, though. Dr. John DeMartini will always be a very big one. I'm very inspired by Marie Forleo. I'm very inspired by you, frankly.
I'm honored.
Yes, because you step out, no excuses. And I love that about you.
Well, when you reach a certain age, you realize, Desiree, what the hell?
I'm honestly getting there. Yes.
I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago at a party, and she's been a very notable person in publishing, and she's doing an entrepreneurial thing now. And she's also like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Just put it out there. Do what is in your heart. What that spark that inspires you.
Yeah. Life's too short. Life's too short to keep putting it on the back burner,
Absolutely. And what is the worst thing that can happen?
I know that is such a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Live your heart's desire. It's really important. And you're freezing again, and I'm not going to have you freeze again, Desiree. Okay. But I think she is. I think Desiree is freezing, and she's probably going to drop out any second. But of course, Dr. John DeMartini was a huge inspiration in her life. So until she's back, because she's got a few more questions that she has to answer, I am going to go fast forward to someone who I've discovered, who I noted it a little while ago, and that's Dr. Joe Dispenza. So those of you who are willing to take a leap of faith and allow yourself to be open to the fact that you can create your own destiny, I suggest Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Natural People Doing Supernatural.
Again.
I know. This is like the fourth freeze. We are not having it anymore. But you're kind of...
I don't know what's happening.
It must be being out there in the middle of Massachusetts, but now the pixels are coming. You were pixelating before, so I don't know. Now I see. I was talking about. I fast forwarded to Joe Dispenza's book, recommending it to people who are being open to the fact that these miracles are out there and you can pull them in. So I'm going to go ask you now. I'm going to flip back to you. What is the best business advice you ever received?
I'm going to say that's Marie Forleo's "Everything is figure outable."
Yeah.
I love that. That has been such a freeing statement. I've trained with her. I've been a member of B School for a while. I think I'm not sure if you done
B School. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm B School. Joanna Black, who was my first guest, she's B School. Yeah. I don't think Paula's been through B School. She's been through all true, but not B School.
Right.
But
it's a great piece of advice, right? Everything is figure outable. It just calms the mind and, sets you into a gear of, okay, I can figure this out. So I'm going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I second that. Marie Forleo fans, I definitely agree. And for those of you who don't know her, Marie Forleo is great. She's got a Tuesday talk show. And, she's always giving really good advice. She's also the founder of a program called B School, where entrepreneurs can really take these wonderful classes and figure out if they have a job or a hobby and if they can move forward. So I find her stuff invaluable, and it's evergreen. So you can always go back to it, and they always update it. So it's great. A person or account our viewers should follow on social media, and why?
I'm gonna say Brené Brown, and I'm saying that because of the talk we're having today, the subject matter, the content, because I think that her body of work around courage and shame and vulnerability, it's just something everybody should at some point delve into. And she just has a fantastic body of work about how to be vulnerable. Not that vulnerability is disclosure, but that vulnerability is showing up when you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And, I stand behind her principles and philosophies so much. So I'm going to say Brené Brown, definitely. If you're not already following.
For those of us who have Netflix, she does have a program on Netflix that we can watch and learn from.
Yeah.
And she obviously, I did one of her quotes. I did for my Side Hustle Warriors blog this week. I did 5 quotes. I always do 5 points in the Side Hustle Warriors. And I did one of her quotes as one of the inspiring quotes to get the week started in an uplifting way. She is very inspiring. And she's also pretty raw. She'll tell you, she goes into those areas that, that you have to be willing to go into to make that move forward. So I think that's a great one. A charity that people may not be aware of that is doing great things.
For me, that's the Unstoppable Foundation. They do great work in Kenya. They do great work in India with, taking in underdeveloped countries, young children, making sure they have access to food and water and healthcare. And also they have mobile healthcare units at the schools for the parents as well.
So important.
They also teach them business, which I think is so fantastic, so that they can go on to have, their own businesses, obviously in the fields and environments in which they live and work, which I just think is so great, giving them that that bit of personal development and entrepreneurial skills as well.
Yeah.
So I think they're doing amazing work in Africa and India. So the Unstoppable Foundation. Yeah.
Unstoppable. And we'll have the link. We'll do all that. A book that made a difference in your life.
Oh, again, so many. I would say, actually, for me, it is A Course in Miracles. I don't know if you've heard of A Course in Miracles, Lynn. It's basically
Of course, Marion.
It's a psychological study of spiritual principles, but with daily exercises where you can put it into practice. And it's not an easy to follow book, but that book has made a massive difference in my life. I would also say A Return to Love, Marianne Williamson, based on what we're talking about, and The Heart of Love by Dr. John DeMartini. I know I'm giving you 3 and you asked for one, but these are all
I think
great
that's
books.
really important, because I think, we went into an area today that is, there's a sad connotation to the word rejection. It's, we all have these egos and, this self-worth that we need to protect. And when we are hit with something as devastating as rejection, it shrinks us. And we need those things that bring us back. So yes, I think that's.
Well, just always remember as well that I really believe rejection is divine redirection, and you just got to figure out what that redirection is.
Yeah, I think that's really a great thing. Yeah. And I think when you look back at the lesson, but it's not only the lesson of the redirect, it's how you use that redirect to really step up.
Yes.
I think that is also really key. Mm-hmm. It's not only to get past this trauma.
Absolutely. It's the next evolution.
Yeah, it's to grow from the experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was amazing, Desiree. Thank you so much. I'm going to spend 2 minutes. Stay on while I wrap up the show.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for having me, Lynn. I'm sorry about all the internet issues, but it's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, no. I think it all worked out perfectly. We can't sweat the small stuff. Absolutely not. There are bigger things in the world. If you turn on the television today, you'll find all kinds of things that dwarf a little technical difficulty. And Mercury's not even in retrograde. What happens when we do the show then? That's for 3 weeks. So I want to say to everybody who watched, first of all, thank you. We will post the links to everything Desiree talked about, from Dr. John DeMartini, his work, to her book, to her website, to Marianne Williamson's books, and also to the charity, the Unstoppable Foundation. We'll do that in the scoop. Also, please text Tell Me #talk to 866-320-6011 to enter to win our smudge sticks. So we have these fabulous smudge sticks. And, one of you will win. Actually, maybe two. We'll give away 2 this week. So do that and then visit the Scoop for all the information. But before we sign off, I want to show you a product that I love. I found this. I want to bring products to everybody's attention that I think are so awesome. So last week it was the Berry Breeze. This week it is this fabulous spritz. And I used to shy away from spritzes. I used to see everybody spritzing with Evian sprays on airplanes and everything. I shied away because at one point they were irritating my skin and it was breaking out from the oil. But we're way past that. So Desiree's back. I'm going to bring her up. But this is a facial spray with aloe, herbs, and rose water. So after you cleanse your face, use this spritz numerous times before you put your serum on. And your face will not only stay hydrated, it plumps those wrinkles out. So really great. And I talked again about Dr. Joe Dispenza earlier. So those are my 2 finds of the week. Maria Badescu, the aloe, herbs, and rosewater spray, and then Dr. Joe Dispenza, natural people doing supernatural things, or average people doing supernatural things. You'll find it. That's it for this week. Next week, we're going to be talking nutrition. And we all could use a little nutrition boost. We're going to have on Casey Rogers. She is my guest. She is great. You're going to love her. And if anybody wants any specific nutrition questions answered, put them in the comments. We'll make sure that Casey gets them ahead of time and addresses them on the show. So Desiree, my darling, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I love you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Love you, and thank you again. It was terrific. We're bringing Amy on. I can't wait to have.
I'm very excited for that one as well. Yes.
I'm teasing our audience when we have Amy. She's great. She's going to she's going to foretell the future for us when she gets on here. So thank you, love. Have a beautiful week, everyone. And if you're seeing this live, write in the comments, but when we do the replay, you'll be able to do the comments also. I activate it so you'll be able to write in the comments. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.